What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be another Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile, and it is going to be on the Performage and Pals deck that I was playing in the duel videos that went up about a week or so ago. Now, people had asked me if I could give them my deck list or make a video on the deck list that I was using just as a reference material, and my initial response was that I believed it to be irrelevant because there are multiple factors that are going into this between now and January that could change the deck list as a whole, but the main one being that we don't know yet if we're getting Performage Pendulum Wizard, and ultimately I hope that we do not get it imported, because if we don't get it imported, then that means the metagame as a whole becomes a lot more stable in terms of what this deck is able to do, being, not able to just load up on counter trap searches and stuff like that. But plus there's also just like the difference in like how decks that we currently have in the current format can evolve going into January as well. There's a lot of just precognitive results that we can draw about how the game will shape up in January, but ultimately it is still all speculation, so I believed it to be mostly irrelevant to give a deck list. But my mind has since been changed, and I figured I would just give out the deck list of what I was using just for people to reference and have starting points, and basically just to impart my knowledge of the conclusions that I've drawn through the little bit of testing I've done with this deck in general. But anyway, deck list is triple Pendulum Wizard, the card that we do not know if we have confirmed or not as an import. And like I said already, I hope we do not get it because it will let the metagame basically exist in a way that is a lot more versatile. Like, it'll allow Magic Specters to still be a deck in, like, it's a smart move on Konami's part to not release this card and not import it in Bosch, even though it would definitely make the set sell like crazy. The problem is that if this card gets announced, the second this card gets announced, it undermines all of the releases that we've had up until this point from Dimension of Chaos. And since Dimension of Chaos has only been playable at literally one YCS and is only going to be legal for 2 months, and Konami basically produces and sells sets over like 4 to 6 month periods, it just doesn't make sense for them to announce this card as an import, because it will literally make every single thing that they've produced in the last 2 to 3 weeks, as well as the Pendulum Structure deck in December, it'll make them irrelevant, because this deck will be by and large the best deck of the format if it does get imported with this card. So there's that to consider. So I'm really hoping that we don't get this card imported, and that the game in general can just progress naturally through like Magic Specters, Cosmos, Magician Pendulums, and Monarchs, stuff like that, rather than having to just go straight into Performage and PAL Turbo, and making it basically another Tier 0 format in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But continuing on, triple Monkey Board, and triple Skull Crobat Joker, and one Performapal Gi Turtle. This is the only Performapal engine that I run. As you can see in the extra deck, there is an Emerald, so it is consistently recyclable and reusable, but you only ever need to resolve like Pendulum Wizard once or twice and get searches, and you basically just get all your names and pieces into circulation very quickly through Monkey Board, Skull Crobat, and Pendulum Wizard. Like, all of these cards grab the other, and it just gets you a very consistent built-in net of, once you have one of these cards, you essentially have any of them. The only one that's kind of awkward is Gi Turtle, but it's really good in terms of what its scale is and what it allows you to do, and also just getting you free draws to allow you to draw into your non-searchable combo pieces, or non-searchable just cards in general, like Wavering Eyes and things like that. But carrying on, triple Luster Pendulum, the Draco Slayer, a very, very good card in this deck, very, very stressed, as well as Pendulum Wizard. These cards are below each other because they are basically performing the same purpose, and its tuner status is amazing. And the fact that there's more copies of this card in this deck because of Clash of the Draco rivals makes it, again, just amazingly good. There's essentially like 15 starter cards that you have in this deck in terms of what you can have starting, and then pair it with something, because you have triple Pendulum Wizard, triple Monkey Board, triple Skull Crobat Joker, and these all get you to Pendulum Wizard, the ultimate goal of the situation. Then you have triple Luster Pendulum and triple Clash of the Draco rivals, so that's another 6 cards. So there's 15 starting cards that you can pair with your Plush Fires or your Ariadnes to start getting things moving very efficiently. And so this deck just has a bunch of overlap consistency built into it. But double Damage Juggler, one Trick Clown, one Hat Tricker, and triple Plush Fire is the only Performage engine. I was running Mirror Conductor for a while, but it's just not needed in this deck. The only thing Mirror Conductor provides for you is like access into Magister Paladin, but it's easy enough to do anyway with like your Performage engine so I just didn't see it being necessary. Its scale being 3 is kind of relevant, but there's a lot of scale 3s in this deck already that you can abuse, and mainly you're going to be setting up your scales after turn 1 with Monkey Board and Gi Turtle because they're so heavily accessible. There's just a lot of factors that go into it. So triple Flushfire, I can't speak. My throat actually really hurts right now. Triple Plushfire with 4 targets, and 2 of those targets being able to search Plushfire, and 1 just being Trick Clown and Hat Trick, but just generically good cards in terms of what they allow you to do with rank 4s and nonsense like that. Just seems like enough. It seems like exactly what I want from this deck in terms of operation. 2 Vector Pendulums, just to be there for Clash of the Draco Rivals to actually be activatable. I was playing a Master Pendulum in the deck, but then I realized that I was literally never going for it, and its purpose just seemed very moot. Its Pendulum effect is pretty alright, of negating all your opponent's Pendulum zones, but, I mean, it's almost never actually just played in the Pendulum zone and left there. It's almost never actually done like that, so it's whatever. Triple Ariadne the Absolver. This card, I did an entire video on this card. This card is incredibly unfair, and this card is the reason I hope Pendulum Wizard does not come out. If this card wasn't coming out in Bosch, I would be like, okay, sure, give us Pendulum Wizard, because then we just have the standard PePe deck that just makes like Infinity and Rafflesia, and you have to deal with that. But no, you have to deal with like the possibility of Infinity plus 3 to 4 of these, and that's a problem. Like, that's a problem. That's an actual problem that I do not wish to deal with. And then the last 2 cards are just Veilers, just generic hand traps. Just because, like, this is, like, really good in the mirror. Like, if you Veiler a Pendulum Wizard, it severely hampers what their plays can do. Even better if you can Veiler Skull Crobat Joker and they don't have the Pendulum Wizard. There's a lot of different factors that go into it, but Veiler is also just really good at being a tuner. That does come up sometimes, but other than that, it's just Veiler. It's just Veiler, dude. You can just do whatever you want. But for spells, Triple Wavering Eyes, best card in the mirror, best card pretty much overall in terms of for and against Pendulums. As I've said before, I believe this card could get touched on the Forbidden and Limited list, because this card is very good and very bad for the Pendulum strategy. If your opponent has one and you don't, and they're able to resolve it, you are at a massive disadvantage, and I don't believe cards like that should be legal in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where if your opponent just has it and you don't, that it's just awful. But I mean, it's not to the point of like, it's more unfair. I'd say it's more unfair than like Soul Charge, because with Soul Charge, yeah, your opponent could get monsters for free, get resources like that. But the thing is it didn't replace itself. If you ever resolve this card for 4 against your opponent and you lose that game, I don't know what the fuck you were doing. Because it gets you another Wavering Eyes, which means they can't Pendulum on their next turn unless they draw their own Wavering Eyes, and even then they have a lot of situational nonsense that has to happen in order for them to resolve that Wavering Eyes, and then still be able to Pendulum Summon. And then you get to banish one of their cards, and it doesn't target, and then you get to add a Pendulum Monster from your deck to your hand for free, so you get another Wavering Eyes, a Pendulum Monster, you take a card away from them. Like, it's the very definition of like a +3 or 4 in terms of the cards you hit and stuff like that. So overall, this card is a little bit too unfair, but you have to main 3 of it if you're playing any sort of Pendulum strategy, especially in PePe format. But carrying on, 3 Clash of the Draco Rivals just to be extra consistency, and getting to Luster Pendulum makes it an additional starter card. Like, I like this card strictly for the fact that if your end game goal is to get Luster Pendulum as a tuner in circulation, so on your field or in your extra deck to Pendulum out, this card is automatically guaranteed to do that. And I really like that. I like the fact that this gives you a guaranteed 6 copies of the tuner to get into your Ignister Prominence, because it's either going to go in your extra deck or your opponent's going to pick it and it's going to get special summoned and be a tuner, or you can put it in your Pendulum Zone if you want to, depending on what you need to sculpt your hand from there. I really like this card. I really, really like this card, and I think this card is extremely fair, considering the fact that you have to run Vector Pendulum to even activate it. So you have to make your deck inherently worse by putting these vanillas in here, but at least it's a Pendulum monster, so it's definitely not as bad as Garnet and Brilliant Fusion. But 1 Foolish, just to, get Damage Jugglers in the grave, to search for Plush Fires, get extra searching going, just get it quickly. Just trying to get plays moving is the ultimate goal of this deck. And then for the traps, no messing around, Triple Solemn Notice, Solemn Warning, and Double Grand Horn of Heaven, just because they're all searchable off Ariadne, and I wanted to be able to draw 1 and still search 3, so that's why there's 6 in here, because you're going to need 3 for the first search, 3 for the second search, and then 3 for the last search. So if you played 5, if you drew 1, you can only get 2 searches max. If you play 6 and you draw 1, you can get another full 3 searches. So like, that's the reasoning for that. And also these cards are all just really good, especially this against Pendulum Strats. But Solemn Notice itself is just amazing. There's a lot of different things that I could say about this card, but I just don't want to take the time to do it right now. For the extra deck, Dino Nister Powerful, the Mighty Draco Slayer, 2 Ignister Prominence, the Blasting Draco Slayer, and 1 Magister Paladin, the Rising Draco Slayer, for the Draco Slayer extra deck engine. Basically, these just all facilitate OTKs, as well as this facilitates a massive amount of protection against your opponent's Wavering Eyes. I like that, it's really good. 1 Cyber Dragon Infinity, Cyber Dragon Nova, Stellar Knight Constellar Diamond, and Stellar Knight Ptolemaeus to round out the Infinity engine slash toolbox slash whatever the hell you want to call it. The fact that this deck will possibly be able to make Infinity using Ptolemaeus, I think, is a little insane. But hey, something could happen to Ptolemaeus between now and January. We don't know. I don't think it will, but something could. 1 Trapeze Magician, a Giant Hand, a Castel, a Skyblaster Musketeer, Diamond Dyer, a Daigusto Emerald, which I almost never make, but sometimes I do. And when I do, it's just because the game is going a bit longer than I expect it to be, and I need more Perform Pals back into my deck to search off Pendulum Wizard, things like that. Abyss Dweller, and Gaga Cowboy to round out the extra deck. Now, cards I was considering running, and that I played around with for a while. Like I said, already Master Pendulum. I considered Gloat Bulb in the main just for the possibility to put Naturia Beast in the extra deck and like have it usable, but ultimately I just didn't really find the space that was worthy of cutting anything just for Bulb into Nat Beast, since this deck can already access Cyber Dragon Infinity. Master Pendulum, like I said, I was running this, but I cut it just because I was never getting it, never using it. It's basically just worse. It's a worse Luster Pendulum in terms of what its Pendulum effect is. And then Mirror Conductor I deemed unnecessary. Zephyros is a card that you could run. Again, I just didn't find room for it. I thought I was going to swap the Master Pendulum out for Zephyros, but then I just ended up putting in another card to just make the deck overall stronger in that regard. But, I mean, that is the deck list. Again, like I said, I think it's largely irrelevant in terms of trying to theory craft with this deck right now, simply because we do not know if we're getting Pendulum Wizard, which is a huge thing if we do get it. But I really, again, for the 3rd time, hope that we don't, because it'll allow the metagame to be a lot more fluid in how it progresses from Dimension of Chaos onward. And then we just have a lot of other factors that could come into play between now and January that would affect the way this deck is built, i.e. another ban list, the Monarch deck's release, the Pendulum Structure deck's release, how those affect the metagame. There's just a lot of things in general that, like, you can try and draw conclusions about it before you see any results or any testing or anything like that, but ultimately it's just you're never going to be 100% right in that in what you draw conclusions of across all those boards. But anyway, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that nonsense. Like the video to support my content and channel's growth now as well as in the future if you like the stuff that I do. Links are in the description of both my Facebook pages. As usual, if you want to chat with me, connect with me, definitely check those out. Click an ad if you have not. I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. Even if you have to remove your ad blocker to do so, please do. Just take a couple seconds out of your day, remove your ad blocker, refresh the video, click an ad or 2, however many you want to do, then put the ad block back on when you're done. Helps me out a lot more than you could ever understand, and I would be greatly appreciative to you if that is something you could do. And if you want to support me in any way or any form, that's probably the best and easiest way for you to do so. But let me know if you guys have any other further questions that I didn't address about this deck in the comments down below. I will try my best to address them in the video itself, because there are a lot of things I could have kept talking about to make this video longer, but I just really decided not to, because, I mean, like, I could ramble on for days like I'm currently doing now, but ultimately I wanted to keep the video shorter. So if there are any questions you guys have about this deck that I did not already address in the video, definitely ask them in the comments down below, and myself or someone else knowledgeable will do their best to answer the question for you. But other than that, that is all for this video, and as always, guys, take care.